Absolutely.
Anybody have an experience where they've completely cut something out of their diet?
I've just completely cut the breads and gluten out of my diet these past like 2.5, 3 years, I guess.
And
It's so much better. I used to need like 9 hours of sleep and it still wasn't enough. But now, I mean, I can function off 7, 8. I'm way more energy throughout a long day, short hours of sleep. It's been great. I don't grind my teeth as much. I don't wake up with headaches and badness. It makes a huge difference.
do you eliminate grains or you eat grains?
I'll still eat grains, but they're not as heavy in my diet as they once were.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you eat quinoa?
I do eat quinoa.
Okay. Millet, amaranth, have you heard of any of those?
I'm not eating those.
Okay. Okay.
Well, yeah, I've eliminated that and I eat dairy as well, but I experimented with quinoa for a couple of years though, but I found that I have some more effect with that too, in terms of addressing the issues. But do you suggest it to people, because I hear that you're supposed to soak it for at least like 4 hours prior to, because it has a coating on it?
Well, I guess it depends. You definitely need to rinse it. I've never heard of soaking quinoa. Other grains I have, especially dried legumes and beans and things like that. Yes, I definitely have heard of soaking that because it definitely will release the enzymes.
Yeah.
But your body might not just tolerate quinoa. It just might not. And, you know, everybody's different. Bio-individuality. What works for you and what fabulous be poison for me, and vice versa. You know, you and I talked about the paleo diet. I can't live on a whole lot of protein. It doesn't do well for me. I don't feel good after I eat a ton of protein. That's why I help people find out. I help people find out what really works for them, what gives them energy, what foods fuel them, what foods weigh them down. And you did a great experiment, and you ate quinoa a long time, and we found that it didn't work for you, and you can switch to another, you know, whole grain or like something that's really good and works for you. Okay.
I cut out wheat about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and I used to have to take a nap in the afternoon at work, and every afternoon at 1 o'clock. And ever since I cut it, I haven't had to, which is great. Get more awake, I don't feel as achy or as tired as I used to.
The food coma, right? The food coma. I used to drive home from work, same thing. I was a teacher, and I used to drive home at 4 o'clock, and I'd be nodding off. I'd be like falling asleep at the wheel because I, you know, had eaten my bagel at lunchtime or something like that. Anybody else?
I don't eat any white bread. I haven't eaten white bread for a long time. My best friend actually has celiacs, and what I saw her go through was frightening. I mean, she was in sad shape before they figured out that she actually had celiacs. But, and when I saw her go through that, that was when I started to cut out the white bread. I can't tolerate the white bread at all. And I don't really eat a whole lot of bread. I do eat quinoa. I don't eat a lot of red meat. Eat a lot of fish. But if I do eat bread, I eat wheat bread. But it's most of it's homemade.
So you know what you're putting in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. White flour, white rice, they actually suck the nutrients out of it. That's what makes it turn white. So like brown rice, when you see, you know, they're sucking all those nutrients out and then providing you with white rice. There really is no reason to eat anything white, basically.
Oh, it's when I eat it, if by chance I eat, you know, we're at a restaurant and, you know, they give me like a white roll. Oh, it's awful. It's like, I don't know, I start to get a headache right away and my stomach's upset. It's just horrible.
Sometimes you're starving and you go out to eat and that bread's sitting on the table and it just looks so good and you want a piece. What happens is that you do that? Do you eat it? I do. I mean, I have like been, you know, you go in these little waves, and we were out to eat about a month ago and I saw it there and I was just like, I'm starving. I hadn't eaten beef all day and I knew I should have grabbed something. I ate the bread. And before you knew it, the basket was empty. I felt like crap. But I still ate my dinner because I wasn't satisfied. That bread, I just was not satisfied. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. It didn't give me energy. It didn't make me feel good. It made me feel like crap. And then I ate more calories. So it's definitely one of those. And it's hard. It's definitely a hard thing to work through. But once you know the mystery behind all of that, and you kind of really don't want to put that Anybody else want to share any experiences that they've had?
I used to get headaches every day, 10 o'clock in the morning and then 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I used to eat like you, no fat, and I would eat jelly beans. And I noticed when I cut that stuff out and I started eating oils and things that would fill me up, or fiber, I didn't have those headaches anymore. I still get stress headaches and things like that, but nothing like the every day, at the same time, twice a day.
Right.
It really helps.
Right, that's awesome. Did you eat, when you ate the jelly beans, did you?
Oh, yeah,
You needed more?
Yeah. I was just like, I would eat the whole bag.
Mhm.
It was awful.
Red Hots. The red
Yeah.
They were my favorite. Great, so do me a favor, one more quick time, just turn to your neighbor and tell each other one important fact that you learned today. One thing that you learned today.
So, yeah, so I'm trying to do that.
I know
Amaranth? Millet? Millet?
Is that like another range?
That's a good one.
I guess it's sprouts, bread, amaranth. Yeah, those spell it out on millet.
Another grade, another good grade.
So I didn't know that.
I don't think anybody there. It's from, oh, it's a carbohydrate, I know it's made from.
It is a complete protein. It is a complete protein because
It's a carbohydrate.
well, it is a carbohydrate because it does represent a grain, but it's actually a sweet. It's really not a grain, so it's kind of one of those controversial things. It does have carbohydrates in it, you know, which what they're good for you. Just like certain vegetables and fruit have carbohydrates in them. I mean, that's a carbohydrate.
Right. Red meat.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a while to make it.
Seconds, quick.
How? I feel like I'm sitting there, it's boiled into the water.
You bring it to a boil, it boils in seconds, and then you put the lid on, turn it down to simmer. Not 10 minutes, not even. Not even.
It's 10 minutes, I'm hungry, and I want to eat salad, and I want to add some salad. How long is it?
A long time.
Okay.
I'm gonna share like some little secrets and tips for that kind of stuff.
I have had the breakfast and the meal.
It's yummy.
It's very good. You were learning something. That's what you would.
Okay. Does anybody want to share their best piece of information? Anybody want to share the one thing that they learned today, or their best fact that they're going to take away with them?
I hear what you said, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Does anybody want to share their one piece of information they learned today, or a great fact that they want to take away with them today?
I'm gonna stay week free.
Okay. What did you say?
It's gonna stay week free.
Yeah, I didn't know like the quinoa and the was a complete protein. So what you said it has that one thing in it.
Lysine.
Lysine.
It contains the amino acid lysine, so it makes it a complete protein.
That's cool. That's fun.
What were the other ones that you said other than quinoa?
Millet, amaranth, spelt.
What was that one?
Spelt.
No.
Actually, I probably should have brought them and you guys could have looked at them next
But you
time.
can make like a quinoa type thing out of that. You do that or make like burgers and veggie burgers. You make those things.
And you can use vegans to mix it up together. Anybody else?
No, I just, it was, I thought the presentation was very good. It confirmed a lot of things that I've read about.
Any piece of information you're going to take away with you today?
I don't know what to give my kids. That's the problem because like they don't, like you don't want to give them wheat. I don't want to give them white. So what do you give them? I'm going to eat spelt bread when you buy. It's very expensive.
Ezekiel, have you ever heard of Ezekiel breads?
They're heavier.
They are heavier. They're sprouted grains, but you can also get Ezekiel wraps. They make them in wraps, they make them in bagels, they make them in muffins. They're all in the freezer section because they are real food, so they're gonna mold if you keep them out.
We used to eat these people that I cut that accent. Oh, it was just like a.
No, it's a sprouted grain.
Oh,
Okay, and so it has no gluten in it whatsoever, and that's why it's held in the freezer section because there's nothing. It's completely fresh, and so they have to freeze it right away. I love the cinnamon raisin. I'll have the cinnamon
it's so
raisin
good.
with like a little bit of my homemade sun butter on top of it.
I feel like it's a lot of homemade things I would have to do.
And that's what I teach people. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how to feed your family, or how to include or not include wheat or gluten or dairy or any of that kind of stuff, I can help you with that. I mean, I have a variety of recipes. If you go on my website, quinoa bars, you know, I fed my kids. I went back to school to learn because I was a personal trainer. And my clients would constantly ask me, what do I eat after a workout? Oh, what should I eat to lose weight? What do I eat for energy? And I would tell them things that I had learned because I was constantly researching and learning for myself and for them. But I'd start my sentence by saying, I'm not a nutritionist, but, and I got sick of saying the but part and I went back to school to study holistic health and nutrition. I am a firm believer that it's the whole body, it's about everything, and you and I talked about this earlier. People think if they exercise really hard, then they're going to get really thin, and they don't really worry about the food part, but it's 80% of what you eat and 20% of what you exercise. But with that being said, you're guiding them into the proper way on how to treat their body on the outside, and I'm guiding them on the proper way to how to treat their body on the inside. It has to go hands in hand. It has to, you know, you can't just eat well and not feel good, and you can't just exercise and not feel good. So I brought you guys a little breakfast treat today. I hope nobody ate. I brought you my breakfast quinoa. And it is actually, it's loaded with, it's all superfoods. So it's loaded with, I put blueberries in there, and I put walnuts in there, and I put cinnamon, and I have a handout for you with the recipe on here. So come on up.
You just have to be careful because Trader Joe's has falling into like the whole like ingredient ingredients.
And it's quinoa.
It's quinoa.
And, like a lot of their ingredients, like it looks like it's great, but you gotta like double check and read
To make sure that it doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
The best price for quinoa.
You're welcome.
Go to Costco. You can get a big bag. It's the same price on a small box.
Oh, okay.
So as far as your kids, Liz,
Yes.
it is definitely hard to get them to change because they're so used to eating one way. But if you introduce it slowly, you introduce certain things slowly into their diet, especially something like this. Or the other thing is too, how old it is?
6 twins.
Okay, have them help. The biggest thing that they love to do is have them help. I told you, I was a teacher. Have them help cook, have them help cut the vegetables, have them help do something in it, and then they feel like kind of empowered, and they feel like they've kind of owned it a little bit, and then they've made it, so they're going to want to eat it because they've made it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'll try that, yeah.
All right, so for you guys, the gentleman here, you know, besides the walnuts having, you know, all those fabulous qualities for you, they actually help fight ED, erectile dysfunction, and same thing with cinnamon, promotes good sperm count. So I have a good recipe for. I have a good recipe for cinnamon covered walnuts if you'd like it. I'm just kidding.
Blushing now.
I'm leaving.
So I hope you guys enjoyed today and learned a little something.
Yeah.
And here, so everything that I just told you about, here's a handout. And if you're interested in just learning more information or getting my newsletter, my business card, the recipe for the quinoa is in the handout, so take one, please.
Eat caffeine. How do you feel about that? Is it the worst thing?
No, I drink coffee. I do, I love it. I mean, I don't drink as much as I used to. My husband actually turns me on to, what's that?
Cold press.
Cold pressed coffee, so it doesn't have as much acid in it. So you don't, I drink.
Like acid reflux.
Yeah, you got that indigestion, but it's what you put in it. So I don't put skim milk, I put almond milk.
Okay.
I don't put Splenda, I
You
put.
don't do artificial sweetener?
I use stevia.
Stevia,
I use
okay,
stevia, all natural liquid.
Oh, liquid.
Just like a dropper. See, that's what I kind of teach people. I'll take people on a supermarket tour to kind of read labels, or you know, sit down with them and we rework their diet, or anything. Because food is what fuels you. You know, let food be thy